My name is James Donoghue. I'm founder and managing director of Landlord Property Exchange. There are currently 11 million renters in the UK. That's a significant number. As we all know, there's a real stress and strain within the private renter sector right now. There is a housing shortage, and the challenges have not been more focused, more so than they have done today.
Make sure that all your documents are absolutely up to date and fully compliant with the Act. So, for example, if you only have oral tenancies, and I can't imagine that many of you will probably only do that, but if you don't, you need to make sure that you issue them with a new tenancy agreement from the 1st of May. You need to make sure that your statement of terms is issued from the 1st of May for existing tenancies, and that you do not do anything that you should not be doing, such as serving a Section 21 notice or a notice to quit after the 1st of May, because we all know they're not going to be valid. So get ahead of the game, get your ducks in a row now, prepare yourself for exit, prepare yourself for litigation, because if those documents are not done, and now is the time to be getting those ready, because if not, it will really come and bite you on the bum later on down the line. So plan.
So for me, building relationships is the heart of everything. And I know we're talking about, I'll digress slightly, but we're talking about building compliance, governance, etc. The truth is, renting as a landlord or being a tenant is a human-to-human relationship, and everything related to the industry is human-to-human. You like your solicitors, you have a good relationship, they understand you, understand them, they'll deliver what you're looking for. The seller likes you, he might choose you because you align in terms of value and not particularly in terms of offer. And building those relationships with your third parties is your strongest point, and it really sits at the heart of every single deal. And that's why, again, genuinely, guys, James did not ask me to promote this, but there's a reason I've been working with James, is because him and his team understood my requirements, and they understand when I come, where I come with requirements and I say I need information ABC, they know there's a reason behind it and therefore understand me. And then, for instance, they enable me to build relationships at times with sellers as well, because I have a way to understand what is it that the seller is looking for. How can I really formulate a deal that meets their desires, essentially, and their expected outcome, without just focusing on price. And believe it or not, the majority of times when you're coming up with a deal for the sellers, or for anyone as a matter of fact, price is the least, the ultimate last point that they are concerned about. What they're thinking is, how can I retire? Oh, if I retire, how can I pass on that money to my children? Or how can I pay my partner's mortgage and go on a cruise? And these are genuine stories. Or some of them sometimes have court cases because of probate properties. So the underlying reason for selling is significantly bigger than just price, and only a good relationship, and one that is built on trust, is one that will allow you as a purchaser to understand these points. So building these across the board is very important.
They talk about landlords and forget that landlords provide a service. And if you don't speak about landlords in that manner, it makes it easier to move on to the next thing, that all landlords are up to something. And what they forget is the vast majority of landlords are very, very good. If they weren't, the sector wouldn't exist at all. People have found something else to do. But that's important because politically it allows certain people to talk about landlords as if they're demons, if they're up to something, and then change the law to pressure landlords, and conveniently forget that costs have to be passed on. Have some tweaks, but the direction you're going, I believe, ultimately will make renting more expensive. It's my personal view that Labour as a political movement instinctively dislike landlords. And the thing they dislike above landlords is large landlords. And I tried to point out to them, the way you're going, only large landlords will survive. And that's not a good thing at all.
And of course, with the abolition of Section 21, it will mean that if you do wish to take possession proceedings against your tenant, you will need a reason to do so. You will need a ground for possession, and that ground of possession must be proven.
So from the 1st of May, there is no contingency in terms of Section 8. So the only thing you need to make sure that you do is to protect the deposit.
You find value in every single deal, and that's by thinking creatively, that's by understanding your seller as well, what they're looking to achieve. Someone might want a discounted price to exit quickly and just hand over the risks, and of course with the Renters Act, there are a lot of risks because in today's world, in the near future, we're not just buying a property as is from today, we're inheriting truly the risks and the consequences of the risks of non-compliance. So it's all about finding value, really, yeah.
Looking at exiting landlord portfolios, because for us it's about trying to keep as many tenants in situ as possible alongside a development plan as well. So I think for me, when you're looking at things, and it actually touches on what you're saying, Melanie, about compliance. It's the key is making sure with any deal, with any block, with any sort of transaction, is that all the documentation's there, whether you're looking to buy it or sell it, because it breathes security to know that the EPCs are all in order. Any rent arrears issues have all been documented.
My due diligence has changed in terms of the way we interview tenants now. So we're a lot more picky, as most of you will be. The obvious one would be previous landlord reference, which is not always possible if it's students, etc. A guarantor. Now, there is rent guarantee insurance, but unfortunately, it doesn't cover anybody that's got not a good background. So if somebody hasn't got a previous landlord reference, the guarantee insurance, unfortunately, doesn't work.
2 points. One is tenants can't afford rents. So if you're in a market, don't overinvest in making it beautiful, because you'll have a ready supply of tenants if you just keep it nice and vanilla and you just charge a reasonable rent, and that's where the whole country needs you. Secondly, this game isn't just about your margins, it's about your personal circumstances. I had a huge personal mortgage in a lovely house, but I had to earn so much money and pay so much tax that it made sense for me to sell some houses and pay off my personal mortgage. You have to look at the whole picture.
Okay, guys, so when there's a change of law, there's always a bit of uncertainty. People are afraid, thinking, is this good? Is this bad? Guys, it doesn't matter. Think about this. This is a buying opportunity. You don't necessarily have to buy a property tenanted. But if you want to make money in property and build a sustainable property portfolio, there is only one way to do this. Has anybody got any ideas? You've got to create value and equity in every deal you do. So the old saying is, the day you buy is the day you sell. So what I would say to you, I sell to property investors. I do a development, I create all the value, I take out all the equity, and I sell to property investors.
So all these things seem to go in cycles. We go through periods where everybody was buying in limited companies, and everybody was told to stop doing that, go and buy in your personal name. Then we changed how tax is calculated on mortgage interest, and everybody starts veering back towards limited companies. So these things do change. What I'd say is, from the get-go, and I know it's hard for landlords, almost think about the exit before you think about the start.
Ultimately, what's actually happening with all this legislation? Landlords are leaving, less supply, rents are increasing, and the very people that Labour represent are the very people that have been hurt the most. But having said all this, this uncertainty is going to create opportunity for you guys. It's going to be easier to buy stuff, and that's the way you've got to look at it. It is an opportunity.
I became more of a tax expert than a landlord expert. And I just thought, is this really what I got into this business for? If I was younger, I'd still be in it very much. But I think it's time for me. Well, you know that it took you a bit of time to get me to part with some of my stuff. I think once a landlord, always a landlord. Property in itself is fascinating. Tenants are fascinating. There's money in it. It's a long-term game. But in terms of restructuring, I found a much better way to continue. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop buying, but for now, I've just moved things around incorporated, done all those kind of things. I've got myself, you know, you have to work your SAS these days.
Believe it or not, the majority of times when you're coming up with a deal for the sellers, or for anyone as a matter of fact, price is the least, like the ultimate last point that they are concerned about. What they're thinking is, how can I retire? Oh, if I retire, how can I pass on that money to my children? Or how can I pay my partner's mortgage and go on a cruise? And these are genuine, you know, genuine stories. Or some of them sometimes have court cases because of probate properties. So the underlying reason for selling is significantly bigger than just price, and only a good relationship, and one that is built on trust, is one that will allow you as a purchaser to understand these points. So building these across the board is very important.
Yet they are. Younger investors are coming in, and we see it as a really good way to match disposing assets with acquiring investors. And we do that through our partnership with Landlord Property Exchange. It's a great way to get rent up to, until the day of completion.
Tenants very much bring together the fabric of what the private rented sector also is. And our crucial point within this, and where we see the market currently going, is that tenanted property sales will become the most common way of selling and investing in real estate.
And you'll be surprised that secondary locations are doing very, very well in serviced accommodation. Traditionally, you had to be city centre in order to work. Now it doesn't really matter. It can work anywhere, basically. And obviously, you know, if you're worried about tenant management, it's a lot easier. But I would say, to finish up that answer, would be try and find a deal where you create that value and equity right from the beginning, whether that's adding value, putting an extension on, or managing the asset better, whatever it would be. And then finally, I would say any commercial property, because the stamp duty is lower, and the price per square foot of commercial property is always cheaper to buy than an equivalent residential property. If you had a residential and a commercial right next to each other, the same square foot size, same condition, it'll always be cheaper, plus you'll save dramatically on stamp duty.